I am really glad to be here today to get to speak about a topic that I'm passionate about with a group of people. I am a little bit mad and a little bit sad that Deborah had to come with the train that was delayed, so she'll be joining us at some point. I am also afraid because I give this talk to many people that I don't know, and I'm a little bit afraid to present to my hometown crowd where I want to do it very well. I'm also glad, sad, afraid about maybe a date that I have tomorrow night. Is a date? Is it coffee? Is it a date? Is it a coffee? And I'm in. What I've just done is called a check-in. The check-in is a communication protocol that I sometimes use with groups that I'm working with. And the format of the check-in is this. Someone starts by saying, I feel. And then one of mad, sad, glad, or afraid. And perhaps a short explanation of I'm mad because, I'm sad because, glad because, afraid because. One can check in with more than one. You notice I checked in with more than mad, glad, sad. I was not only glad, I was also mad, sad, and afraid. And one can combine about my date. I am both glad, sad, and afraid. The reason for this is that many psychologists feel that these four emotions are the Grundfarben, the primary colors of human emotion, and that all other human emotions can be made up of these four emotions. So by focusing on the primary colors, it allows you to identify what you're feeling. The reason for the check-in is when we work together in a group, we say we like to be fully present with the group, but often we're encouraged to leave all the feelings outside. So it's a little bit of a dichotomy. Be fully present and leave all your feelings outside. So the purpose of the check-in is just to acknowledge the feelings, to get them there, so that then one can be fully present. One has the option of saying, I pass, and the group, and then one has the option of saying, I pass, followed by I'm in. Either I pass, I'm in, or I feel, and I'm in. I'm in signifies that I'm fully present with the group. And because it's really awkward to say all these things to a group and hear nothing coming back, typically the group responds by saying, welcome.
Welcome.
And I realize that in Switzerland it's taboo to bring personal things to work. However, if we want to be full persons, we have to acknowledge that there's personal things too. So when you check in, you're encouraged to check in as deeply as you wish, which means you have the option of bringing personal things in as well. They're not to be really, the purpose is not to discuss them, it's just to get them there to allow you to be present. So I'd like to try with this group a check-in, go as deeply as you wish, following this format. So if you could join together in groups of 3 and check in with each other in a group of 3. Are there any questions? Let's try that. Okay. That was 2 minutes. What I would like to do is that we're going to do several of these 2-minute things, and I'll raise my hand at the end of the 2 minutes, and when you see my hand go up, if you could put your hand up and at the same time finish the sentence you're saying and raise your own hand, the room will quickly become quiet. What we did, as I mentioned, is called the check-in. It comes from a book called Software for Your Head, which was written by some managers at Microsoft. And in this book are several protocols to help teams organize behavior to create time within the team, which is an option that people have if this is helpful to you. Sometimes I do check-ins with groups every time the group comes together. And many groups find this useful. One thing it does is creates time in a group. You may notice that when you perhaps are at work and in a meeting, and someone is very angry, and you spend the whole meeting, oh, why is that person angry? I don't think I sent that email I was supposed to send. suggestion. Oh my goodness, they're mad at me. Pretty soon on the coffee break, everybody's talking at the coffee break. Did you see how angry Franny was? I think she's angry at me. No, well, I thought she was angry with me. Well, I thought she was angry. Before you know it, you spent the whole coffee break, the whole meeting worrying about why Franny's angry, the whole coffee break, discussing why Franny might be angry, only to find out that Franny's angry because she got a letter with bad news in it that has nothing to do with work or anyone there. So one thing that Checkin does is creates time by allowing you to focus on the work at hand rather than on worrying what people are feeling. You can find out more about this at livinggreatness.com. And Deborah has arrived.
Good morning. I'm glad I made it. I'm mad at Deutsche Bahn. I'm sad I wasn't here for the beginning. And I'm glad to join in now as you are getting going. And I'm in.
Welcome.
Just in time to tell you about a word from English that you've probably heard. Do you know the word serendipity? Serendipity. There's a place apparently in India called Serendip. Serendipity, the word means, I'm told in German, glücklicher Zufall. In English, a happy accident or an unexpected blessing. Serendipity. So think for a moment about something that happened to you in the last while, at home or at work, that was serendipitous. Think about an instance of serendipity. Get it in your mind. What happened? Remember the feeling? And now, get in groups of 3 if you would, and talk about how that event could have been improved by planning. Tell your neighbors what your event was, just describe it briefly, and each of you take a turn and then talk about how these could have been improved by planning. And you've got 2 minutes. In groups of 3.
That was 2 minutes. We realized that the time boxes here are very short, and you are going to be stressed a little bit pushed for time, but I asked you not to be stressed, but use this speed of the 2 minutes to inspire yourself to quickly come up with good ideas in a high energy way. What I want to do is talk to you about real options and trust. I'm Steve Hoyer, and I'm passionate about working with teams, and I'm also passionate about helping teams tell stories using all kinds of creative tools, including Lego bricks at work.
And I'm Deborah Hartman-Preuss. I'm Canadian living in Germany, and I am fanatical about bringing joy back to work. And I think that the happier people are, the better products they'll create, the more meaningful their work, the happier they'll be. So it creates a virtuous circle. And I've spent the last 8 years working to help people do that in different ways, coaching individuals and coaching teams.
I want to give you an experience of real options today. I invite you to the experience. You're under no obligation to do anything with it, but come in and try. We live in a world of uncertainty, and when we live in an uncertain world, it's a good idea to create options for ourselves to deal with the uncertainty. We can create options to grow, options to connect, and options to create. A lot of times we think about options and we treat our options as commitments. I would like to go to a concert, so I purchase a ticket for the concert. And often I think that ticket is a commitment to going to the concert. However, it is not actually a commitment to go to the concert. It's an option to go to the concert. I've purchased the option to be able to attend the concert. But if something more valuable, more rewarding, more creative, more connected comes up In the meantime, I always have the option of doing something else. Interestingly enough, usually that ticket is a commitment on the part of the concert organizer to allow me into the concert, but it's an option for me to attend the concert. If I'm standing at the top of the cliff with a decision to make, and I decide to jump off the cliff, I've made a commitment. I can change that commitment into an option if I get a rope. And if I remember to tie the rope to something before I climb down. So it is possible to turn your commitments into options. You might not be surprised to find out that the concept of options trading comes from the banking world, something that we're probably all touched by in Zurich. Traders use the concept of options to pay for the option to buy an underlying commodity at a price that's set now, but actually purchase it at a later date. And what we learned from this metaphor that we can borrow from financial traders is that options have value, options expire, and you should never execute your options early or commit unless you know why. Another example is if I were to attend a conference, and if at the last day of the conference, I'd like to fly back to Zurich. And so I have the option of taking public transit from the conference hotel to the airport. As I'm sitting at breakfast, a colleague comes and asks to join me at breakfast. Well, if I have breakfast with the colleague, my option to take public transit will expire because there'll be no longer time to get from the hotel venue to the airport. But by having breakfast with a colleague, I can open many more options for connections, and perhaps we can find new things to work on. So by having breakfast with my colleague, I can create options, and I make sure that I have other options to get to the airport. For example, I could take a cab. Turns out this colleague, this is a true story, this colleague I met said to me, you could ride, how are you getting to the airport? I said, well, I guess I'll have to take a cab. She said, well, there's another option. I was the keynote speaker at this conference, and they paid for a limo for me. Would you like to come in the limo? I said, yes, but your flight is 2 hours after mine. You're going to be at the airport for 3 hours. And she says, well, I'm one of the people that is really behind the concept of real options. And my flight is the last flight from Bucharest to London. And so I want to arrive 3 hours early to make sure I have the option of getting home. If I arrive late, I have made a commitment because there's no option of getting to London until the next day. And she said, I can't deal with not having the options. Financial traders use mathematic formulas like Black-Scholes Monte Carlo analysis to price options. And often, they come up with good prices for options. However, so this works well in the financial trading world. However, in the real world, the world of real options, financial math doesn't work as well. The assumptions that traders need to make their formulas work don't hold true in the real world. I just mentioned that because if you look up real options on Wikipedia, you'll find a whole article about assigning new, financial values to all of your options, running it through complicated math to come up with the decision you should make. And that is actually, in my opinion, not real options. That's using complicated math incorrectly to eliminate options and make a bad decision. So just to let you know, the real options we're talking about here are not those kind of options. Right now, I wanted to raise your awareness of what options can be. We're going to experience them in just a moment. And I want to mention, this is Chris Motz and Olaf Maassen from the UK and Holland, who've written a book on real options. It's a graphic novel, actually, and there's a copy of it sitting here on the table. It's targeted towards project risk, so it's a little bit project IT oriented, but you might find it very interesting. So I recommend the book. It's excellent. And now I want to give you an experience of real options. So in the groups that you've already been working in, the first thing I'd like you to do is, sitting in your group, just take 2 minutes to think of some tough decisions that you have to make in the next week. Could be a tough decision at work or a tough decision at home. We're going to share these in the group next, so think about decisions that you would like to share with other people. You've got 2 minutes. Okay, think now with your groups, you have a list of tough decisions within the group. Maybe 12, maybe not, but that's all right. I'd like you within your group to choose the 3 most challenging decisions that the group has. Challenging might mean the 3 decisions where the options for a solution are the least obvious. You've got 2 minutes. Now you have a list of challenging decisions. And for each of those decisions, I'd like you in your group to brainstorm 3 options for concrete action. When you take concrete action, that doesn't necessarily mean making the decision, but take a concrete action that could somehow change the decision or make the decision. So you have 2 minutes. For each decision, brainstorm 3 options to take concrete action. Okay, you may not have had time to list all the options, but we need to move on. And now that you've looked at the options, I'd like you in your group to choose the most challenging of the 3 decisions for which you have options. And we're running short on time, so we're going to have 1 minute to choose the most challenging option. Now that you've picked your most challenging of the 3 decisions within your group, take 1 minute to list everybody who's affected by that decision, all the people who can help you make the decision, all the people that are involved in the decision, all the people that are affected by the decision. You have 1 minute, so go. Now take 1 moment, you're sitting there, to imagine what it would be like if you fully trusted all of the stakeholders. Imagine what it would be like if you fully trusted everyone involved in your decision. And how would it feel if they also trusted you? Just imagine that for a moment. Now, if you need a magic wand to wave to establish this trust, imagine you have the magic wand. And now I'd like to know what you could do now to change your decision. Take 2 more minutes to list all the concrete options that you see now for that decision. Two minutes. Someone said to me that the last question was not clear. So let's see how we can ask that question in a clear way. Before, I asked you to think of at least 3 options to change, 3 options to take concrete action to affect your decision. Right? Then I asked you to imagine if you could trust everyone involved in the decision. You chose one of those decisions, and I asked you to imagine if you could fully trust everybody involved. So the question is now, when you imagine that you can fully trust everyone involved, list the options that you have for concrete action. So this is a repeat of the question before, but now you're imagining you can trust everybody involved. Any questions? Okay, take 1 more minute.
We're at the end of our time, and so I'd just like to ask you quickly, what struck you? What stood out for you in that exercise? What was new? What did you discover?
I'll say. The value of options. That options, even future ones, have value, and you can compare those values. And sometimes it helps, makes it easier to actually come to a decision if you look at the value even of a future option.
Recognizing the value of a future option. Thanks.
I was going to say, when you interjected the trust, it took away some of the fear of the emotional reaction that the decision would have on other parties and allowed it to be much more clinical, for lack of a better word, decision.
Interesting, huh? What else did you notice? What was interesting? Yes?
Similar. Trust takes away a lot of assumptions.
Trust takes away assumptions.
Yeah, so it becomes way more open. Because if I say this, then maybe, yeah.
Did you feel you had more options?
Yeah, I had more options because trust because I don't know what they think.
More options because you don't know what they think. Great. What else? One more thing. What did you notice? What was interesting? Or surprising? Yes?
Maybe it was also said more options make it easier to decide. Although it looks like I have plenty of options and it's harder to decide, but I had one thing I have to decide next week, and I think for me it's quite much more easier to decide if I would have more options, because then it's just easy to pick one and to value also then, because I have some comparisons where I can certify the value of the options.
Interesting.
I probably have now wrongly measured.
So paradoxically, more options seems to make a decision easier, but what helps is valuing them.
Yep.
Did I see a hand over there as I'm leaving the stage? I know I need to leave. No. Thank you very much.
Quick conclusion. I was glad to share real options with you. I hope that it was a nice introduction. I'd like you to remember that options have value. Options do inspire. And you should never execute your options unless you know why. Never execute your option early unless you know why. That means if you're standing at the top of the cliff, instead of committing to jumping down, find the option of a rope, remember to tie it off, and then you've turned your commitment into an option. This is a great book. We could recommend it. Thank you for spending a little bit of time with us.
We do have 5 or 8 more minutes left till we throw you out of the co-working space. Would you have any questions to Steve or Deborah, please? They all picked on me because I had to quit smoking. This was my. So they were happy picking on me. Please.
I wonder sometimes it's not a decision you have. You can't formulate the decision. You don't see the options. What do you do then? Because choosing is sometimes easier than just think, hey, what do I do to make my work better or make sure I get more work?
Can I answer that from a coaching standpoint? So from a coaching standpoint, I generally start with clients from a vision. Like set it far out, because our decisions, we often get stuck in now, like the details. And get a really clear, passionate, gut level vision of where you're going and how much you want it. I wonder if that would help.
I think so, yeah.
So, and that can be helped by just having a friend ask you good questions about it.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that is a way of creating more options.
Christian, please.
When you open up all these options and you're always kind of like having more and more options, and you pursue this idea of pursuing options, doesn't it kind of make you non-committal? Like I'm a firm believer in like you make a decision and the commitment is to like carry that decision through. That like that's how you build a reputation. If you're the options guy, like he's always has all his options open. So like we're not actually sure if he's going to do this work because something else might come up that pays him more, and he's just going to not do it.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Sounds like using the word option inaccurately could lead to kind of soft commitments. And so maybe being better informed about your options will make you able to make more educated decisions. As you were saying, you feel clearer. Yeah, go ahead.
We had also a lot of problems about that in my workplace, and we were just coming back to the point. If you make a commitment, know why you do it. And if it's in the workplace and if you need to make commitments, then it's why and you do commitments. And if there's a person who's just always, as you said, when the group says he's just always in options, and so he will not make it here. So he has a reason to make commitments, and if he doesn't seize it, so then of course he has to change the group. But that's probably reasons we make a commitment when we know why.
You want to add something to that?
Yeah, I mean the value of options is only a value if you have a decision. If you don't decide anything, why do you have options? It's not about collecting. It's not Pokemon of options. I collect every option. It's about I collect the options I need to make a decision, and then I make the decision, and then I have new options. But if I don't make a decision, the option has no value.
So there are two skill sets. One is choosing, finding your options and looking at them and making choices, and the other is the skill set of making firm decisions and letting people know that you're really committed.
Yeah.
Thanks.
This
There's a thought of expiring in there too, that you keep all your options open, at some point those options expire. And the options of your coworkers to want to work with you is going to expire at some point as well, it sounds like.
And your options affect each other. So if you choose the option of never committing, you may be expiring a whole lot of other options. They interact.
So für all die, die sich heiraten, ist jetzt aber auch klar gewesen wegen den Optionen. 2/3 of couples separate, just two. Gut. Weitere Fragen? Meine Damen und Herren, Deborah, Steve, thank you very much for being here. Liebe Gäste, danke vielmals für kommen. Stephanie, ich sehe sie gerade wieder. Ja, merci noch. Am Chef schon wieder. Merci für hier zu sein. Und, voilà. Ja. Und einen schönen Morgen. Danke. Merci.